Hey everybody, this is Ben Kaufman. I am sitting here in Unreal Engine 4.5, I believe. Yeah, 4.25. And I just wanted to go over this character I've been working on here the last couple of weeks. It is Sir Kay fan art from the Disney Sword in the Stone. I wanted to go for a more hyper-realistic version of the character. Wanted to go over the setup and some other items, how I created this character from start to finish. So basically we are here in Unreal using raytraced. This is all real time. This can be for a cinematic or game. This character is primarily intended for cinematic use. It is a little bit higher density model, but could easily be converted to a game character if so desired. Basically, we are using the new groom that came out with the recent release of Unreal. So I'll go into a little bit of how I got that working. I think it worked out pretty well here. And yeah, just go through this character. Right now, we're just using a general 3-light point light setup. Like I said, the ray trace with rectangle lighting. I have a sphere here that I'm using for the cinematic camera to set a focus on the face, so that when he's doing his animations, walking and whatnot, I'm able to focus in on the face. And yeah, this is going to be kind of a quick kind of showcase tutorial of how I got the hair working. Got the bow here that I modeled, and the clothes that I modeled here as well. So this is basically the Unreal setup that I used, and next we'll probably jump into Maya and show the hair that I created in XGen. Not really going over how I got the setup and things working, but kind of just breaking down piece by piece of how I got this character from, I guess, start to finish. Okay guys, so we are here in Maya. I believe this is 2020. So I created the hair that you see from the Unreal rendering that I just did. I created this in XGen. Basically I have the hair base, the tail base, and the hair front. So basically what I did here is started off with the interactive groom. You have the head base here. Also did I tried to do a beard, but ended up not using that. Probably use that on another character or for future videos. But basically you have the head mesh here, and then you have the scalp mesh that I worked on with the XGen groom. Like I said, interactive. Once again, this tutorial is not going to go into detail of how I actually built out the character. This is more just piece by piece of showcasing what details the character involved here. But basically the hair was placed on the scalp. I have 3 different sections as mentioned. I have the base hair, the tail hair, and the front hair. Basically decided to break this out into 3 pieces to have further control, which ended up working pretty well. The front hair was kind of a last minute decision. Worked with a colleague of mine from Japan that works for Capcom, that basically indicated that I would be able to have more control if I wanted to do some hairs coming out different ways, and also breaking up the hair. Here, when I was importing this into Unreal, it had some difficulty with the hair width, and I was getting some too much show through of the scalp. By placing this hair modifier on the front, I was able to make it a little bit more dense and have more control of the character. So that was kind of one unique trick that I ended up doing here for the ponytail. Basically have the guides coming straight out from left to right, and I went ahead and just wrapped the guides from left to right, making this ponytail what you see now. Basically have the different modifiers on here for the sculpt, 2 clumps, and some noise. Went ahead and exported these down to get rid of the modifiers, so it'd be a lot simpler to import into Unreal. And went ahead and just exported this down here as a cache, and imported it into the Unreal Engine, like I said, with the new groom capabilities that they have. So this is kind of my setup here. I was doing some play around with the Arnold rendering, thus the 3-light setup here, but everything that I went over and showcased is going to be just in the Unreal live ray trace. This was just kind of something I was messing with. It took me about 8 or 9 passes exporting, importing into Unreal to get the final look that I was happy with, but yeah, pretty happy with how it turned out in the final render that was in the beginning of the video. Next, we're going to be jumping into probably Marvelous Designer, going over some of the clothes that I worked on this character and showcasing a little bit of my process there. Yeah, hey guys, I am now in Marvelous Designer. I use this to create all of the fabric and clothing for my characters. Once again, not going to go into detail of how to use Marvelous Designer, just showcasing the stages of this character from start to finish. So I found that Marvelous Designer does a really good job creating realistic looking folds that I usually export into ZBrush, clean up, retopologize, send into Maya, UV, etc. But getting the folds and looking good is definitely the fastest way that I found for clothing was using this Marvelous Designer. So I basically created everything in here. I also created, which is in a different project, but I created the base of actually the shoes. Wanted to go for like a medieval type looking shoe that I ended up creating here. Kind of just wrapped his foot and then exported that into ZBrush, which I then sculpted. So you're able to actually build gloves, shoes, headwear, everything else. The character looks a little funny here with his eyelashes. There's no transparency or anything going on here. But basically just export the base mesh and then build the clothing on top of him there. One of the biggest issues that I ran into was modeling the character into different T-pose and then getting the clothing to overlap in the game engine and the final render. You want to make sure that your model's in the same pose, exporting the clothes, etc. That when you're conforming and binding the clothes to the mesh, if it doesn't match the actual T-pose that you ran into, you're going to run into some problems when it comes to the weights and everything else that you're using if you're doing animation. But yeah, once again, not going over much detail, just kind of showcasing here the different programs and the different steps that I got this character from start to finish. So this is Marvelous Designer, definitely worth checking out if you haven't. Next, we're probably going to go into ZBrush and then maybe some post-processing after the render, but that should be getting close to wrapping this video up. Okay, yeah, I think this is the last program we're going to jump into here, but this is basically the quiver that I modeled here in ZBrush, exported to Maya, exported back to ZBrush, exported to Maya, back to ZBrush, kind of back and forth. Basically, it's probably a little bit higher topology than I would want to keep it for a game model, but once again, this is primarily for a cinematic, and yeah, I mean, it's not the greatest detail, but I think for the purpose of the cinematic that I was going for, it worked out okay. Basically, just built this here in, built the base here in ZBrush, exported it to Maya, then used the base as a magnet, importing these half spheres onto the model. You can see I literally just created topology spheres in Maya, cut them in half and stuck it onto this model. I then imported the model, the T-mesh, And then in Maya, I made this the magnetic character and basically drew a line going around the character with a spline, I think, and then created the satchel part that holds this up. That was a pretty basic, quick and dirty way of doing this, and then basically smoothed it out, and then converted the smooth mesh to polygons, cleaned it up a little bit, and UV'd it, sent it to Unreal Engine. So this was basically what the quiver looks like. Here's the base model of the Cirque that was modeled out here, and basically this is what I used, the same model that you saw that was inside Marvelous Designer. Yeah, this is basically going to wrap up the tutorial. Oh, here's the bow that I used. This bow basically had a little bit of trouble with the getting this part, the actual string, to show up in the rendering. You know, it was having some kind of artifacting, kind of messing around with how wide I wanted it to go, just in case you wanted to shoot a bow out. Another thing I mentioned is that the arrows were modeled separate and placed in there, so I did want to do a later video of him shooting an arrow, and you could actually pull it out and be able to shoot the arrow, so that those are all independent objects in the game engine. But yeah, overall, this was a fun project to work on, and later on I might do a video showing some more details, you know, in Marvelous Designer, ZBrush, and texturing, etc. But this one is just meant to kind of showcase the start to finish for that character that you saw in the beginning of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, hope this was helpful, and look forward to talking to you guys soon.